someone that I've been friends with for a very long time, friend of the channel. He's been multiple, Fan Love Fridays. I've interviewed him, and he lived upstairs, literally lived up here for a couple years, is our brother TRoss the Giant, who unfortunately yesterday went home to be with the Lord. TRoss the Giant is a artist from Oceanside. He was on staff at North Coast Church as one of their video editors. He had a rare and aggressive form of leukemia. He went on hospice on Wednesday. He went home on hospice on Wednesday. He passed away Thanksgiving night. I got the text from Zach. Rabzilla posted it. I'm going to show you guys a clip because I think to me I'm going to show a clip from our interview because I think to me this is a macro conversation that I think a lot of folks are having. That's actually a lot of the reason why many people struggle with the faith and shipwreck the faith. He was close to our family. He was close to my son. Loved him when he lived here. My son would always want to go to his room and play, going up to Tanner's room. And so, his family is grieving. His friends are grieving. Him and John, Keith, and Zach would do this thing. I would always tease them about it. They would. I was trying to get these guys to go to the gym. This is like 2018, 2019. I got super shredded, and I was trying to get them to go to the gym with me, but they couldn't get up in the morning because they would always stay up late and just hang out every night. And I'm grown, and I was trying to go to the gym, and I would say, man, you guys coming to the gym tomorrow? Or you guys just going to sit up and do frat hour all night? So oddly enough, they did, as the joke that I said, they did a podcast called Frat Hour where they would just kind of stay up and shoot the breeze and like created content out of it. And so around this same time, he found out that he had this form of leukemia, and he was sick and he was having all kinds of weird symptoms. I wanted to play this for you guys because a lot of folks may have not had the best Thanksgiving. A lot of folks maybe have a hard time on Thanksgiving. I couldn't imagine losing a son on Thanksgiving the way his father did. I couldn't imagine losing a spouse the way his wife did. I couldn't imagine these things on Thanksgiving, right? And so I'm gonna play you guys a quick clip because I think that the macro conversation around this is relevant for a lot of you guys and a lot of the questions that maybe people are dealing with. So there might be some things that come up right later and you gotta monitor it. Sure. But like people that don't make it, like how are you going through this like pretty gnarly traumatic event? Like why do you think that why does God allow bad things to happen to good people? Like, what is your experience from this? This is right after he had his first round of chemo. He came home.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really tough question. I don't know that God just allows things to happen. That's just a tough question. There's a lot to it. But I think in my specific scenario, I really look at it as God will be glorified in everything. So I spent some time trying to figure out basically, like, what is God trying to do with this? And I think he's already worked a lot. Like, he's taught me so much that I'm actually thankful that I've had this experience, which is kind of wild. I remember the first time I said that, everyone kind of looked at me in the room like, what are you saying, bro? And I was like, you know what? I came out of this really realizing that my life is not my life and that I'm really just here to serve him and things like that. And it was really crazy. And obviously I would prefer to not have had this experience. Sure. But I think God has taught me a lot, and he's taught me a lot that I can use to serve other people and to glorify him. And I think another big thing is if he's going to do it to anyone, at least I have him to rely on, whereas a lot of kids don't have Jesus or things like that. And I have, you know what I mean, something that's the biggest thing to rely on and fall back on and to help me keep going, which is him. And so I was like, you know what, if anyone should take this burden, it should be me, or it should be someone that I'm close to, and we should be feeling this pain as Christians. We should walk into the suffering and do it with him instead of trying to walk away from the suffering.
We should walk into the suffering as Christians and not try to run away from the suffering. And I think oftentimes we always ask the question, why evil? Why would God allow evil? Why do bad things happen, right? So on and so forth. And we don't have to look much further than the cross for that question. I'm not making a certain linear logical argument. When I was 19 years old, my best friend who was 20 passed. So I've gone through this before. But it doesn't make any sense in the moment, and it doesn't make it any easier to lose someone close to you, right? It's like, well, still, God could have healed him. He wanted to be healed. God could have supernaturally healed him. Our worship pastor had a rare form of leukemia that mutated, and he's well now. He's taking a pill once a day, and he's fine. He's had kids after, right? Why certain things happen, I don't know. I don't know why our worship pastor, Pastor Travis, is alive and why Tanner's not. I don't know. I wish I had better answers. I don't know. However, that doesn't make it an indictment on God. That doesn't make it an indictment on God for why these sorts of things happen, for why certain people succumb to these diseases and other people don't. I don't know why. What I do know is that God is still good. What I do know is that Tanner believed God was still good. What I do know is that he was able to have joy despite the suffering. What I do know is that he was able to make sense of his suffering by looking to the cross, the greatest injustice in the history. What I do know is that Jesus is still on the throne. What I do know is he still reigns. What I do know is that there's a life after this, and it's better than what this is. And what I believe is that I will see Tanner again, right? And I will see my friend Big Mike again, and I will see, my grandfather again. That doesn't make it easier in the moment, but that definitely provides context that if we wonder why evil happens and why bad things happen and why people get sick and why do our bodies break down, we don't have to look much further than the cross, guys. And again, even in the time of the holidays, man, like there's a lot of folks going through it right now. There's a lot of, they say deaths of despair go up around the holidays because so many people, you start thinking about family, you start thinking about folks you fell out with, you start thinking about folks you lost, you start thinking about how your year didn't go the way you wanted to go. I mean, we just saw the gentleman from the Power Rangers, take his own life. It doesn't make anything easier, but it should never be an indictment on God. It should never be an indictment on the goodness of God. Do I have questions? Yeah. Like, am I gonna ask when I get to heaven? Yeah. Like, what? Why? But not in a way of like I'm questioning who God is. Not in that sort of way. And so, for me, I think of my last time hanging out with Tanner, and I think of how me, him, and Foggy had dinner a little while ago, and how awesome that was. And I think about him wanting to meet my baby, Zoe. He didn't get a chance to meet Zoe because he was immunocompromised, so he couldn't be around people really much after that, after his cancer came back. So that was a bummer, So like I look back through our text and a lot of our conversations, and he would watch a lot of the videos, and he would send me voice notes and like, man, I love this stuff, I love that, right? And then I sent him music. I don't send anybody music really besides him. I sent him music. No one else has any of the new music. I sent him music, and he was very encouraging about that. And so we were trying to connect. We were up in LA in August when we did the Minimalist podcast, and me and Zach were trying to go by and see him. He was at a clinical trial hospital doing a clinical trial on him, and we were trying to see him. It was a little less stringent, and unfortunately we couldn't. We just kind of like, man, we got to hang out. And I wish I would have saved the last voice note he sent me, because I looked back at our text and he sent me a voice note because I checked on. I said, hey, I saw you left the hospital. How are you doing? And it was while I was coming back, while I was landing in Israel, and he sent me a voice note. And to be honest with you guys, I didn't even listen to I listened to the voice note. I didn't save the voice note, nor do I remember what he said to me in the voice note. But that was like 3 weeks ago. So I'm bummed that like I didn't save that last voice note. And so when Zach got the text from Tanner's wife on Wednesday, it was like, hey, can we go by and see him? And he was like, she was like, no, he doesn't want any visitors. And I was like, man, that's a bummer, because I would have loved to go and have one last final conversation with him, because they said he got sent home on hospice. And it would have been cool to go, because that's the first thing I said, could we go see him? And he was like, nah, he doesn't want any visitors. But once I kind of understood where he was at and how little time he had left, like I understand that he probably wasn't all there, because when you're that close, you're not all there, and or you probably didn't want our last memory of him to be in a state where his body was shutting down, his hands and feet were swollen, and he just wasn't in a good spot, and so then you think of like, man, should I just text him and just told him I loved him? It's all very, very weird and jarring, but it just goes to show, man, like we live in a fallen world. We live in a fallen state. We live in a world where suffering exists. And I don't really know I don't know how to make sense of it. I wish I had more answers, you know? So I do love that, I do love that we had a conversation about this stuff. I do love that he was in good spirits all the way till the end. That video that I posted on Instagram brought his father some comfort and brought his wife some comfort, and that they shared it. And so anyway, I'm going to play you guys one of his last music videos. Well, I don't think this is the last music video. The dope part about Tanner is he was like sometimes creative people are real weird with God. Like, sometimes creative people are just a handful. I always joke about this. Like, trying to, the reason why I don't run a label anymore is like trying to help Christian creatives is like trying to herd cats. Like, it's very difficult because creatives tend to be very emotional. But Tanner had this beautiful balance of like wanting to make great music. And he had a couple records that really took off on Spotify. Wanting to make great music while still being really solid and anchored in his faith before there was any leukemia. And that was always very like unique and awesome about him. So anyway, I'm gonna play you guys this record. I think it's a dope record. Hopefully you guys enjoy it, and then we'll get back to it.
Hi Tanner, it's Dr. calling. I was just calling to talk to you about some of your lab results that I have back. I will try to call you back before I leave if I don't hear from you in the next few minutes.
I'm already feeling some type of way that I can't be home. And now my life flipped, doctor told me to eat it, bro. Some mama believed it though, just bringing the baby back. Brushing my shoulder off, it's just some pain and no rash. They're shoving needles and tubes up in me. I'm black and blue, it ain't candy, them bastards, but they ain't kill me, them sweats. Ain't feeling chilly, leukemia, feeling silly. Tried to tell my girl it's cool to leave, and I meant that sincerely. But she stuck around and we in it. Little dude looking like something with a divine finish. Yeah, I'm a divine witness after hundreds of signs from God and my fly mistress. I don't need my spinach, I just need 5 minutes in my room with a mic. Hold the holy water, chill out or I'm losing a fight. Taught myself to bounce back, straight bruising these mics. And funny thing about these fights, I'm never losing them twice.
Diagnosed today.
TRoss the Giant was this year's Rapzilla freshman. I think that this is a hard time, and I think that music is probably going to have a standstill right now, and it has to be.
You could drag me through the mud. I got my demons on my shoulders. Demons on my shoulders. And you could take all.
We got the homie TRoss the Giant.
Chill.
What's good?
How you feeling?
I'm feeling really good, surprisingly.
Yeah.
I got the power. If this is my last breath.
I specifically had a bunch of mouth sores that made it really difficult to eat.
I remember you saying that was like the worst part.
That was the worst part.
Something so random could be the most painful.
Right.
I pray you love me anyway.
The cancer is gone. That's what I'm saying. TRoss the Giant has beat cancer, and now he can focus on his music, his life, and everything else.
Today, Tanner came home from the hospital from his treatments for cancer.
I pray you love me anyway. Hey.
TRoss the Giant, also known as T Ferrari, ladies and gentlemen. And yeah, if you guys should, we always tease him about the name T Ferrari. Like, bro, TRoss the Giant is a dope name. So, man, praying for his family. I say all that to say, sometimes in this life, things that don't make sense will happen to you. It doesn't make sense, and that's okay. And if you're going through it, if you've had a rough couple of days, if you had a rough couple weeks, if you had a rough couple years, there's always somebody that's going through it in a different kind of way. And so I could be frustrated or whatever. And it's like at the end of the day, like, man, I'm not, didn't see my son pass away, you know? Like, remember there's people really going through it, you know? There's people really going through it. His wife, you know, who's now a widow, you know? It's a dark world out there, guys. So be grateful for the time that you do have with your loved ones. Even if those relationships are not perfect. Even if there's tension, even if there's dysfunction. Enjoy, be in the moment. Be in the moment with your loved ones. And that's what Tanner was, man. He was always in a moment. He was always generous with his time. And my dad passed away November 8th of last year. I was with him alone in the room when he passed. It doesn't go away ever. Yeah, it's like they say losing someone, especially like a father or someone like that. It's like losing a limb, you know? Like you kind of learn to live without it, but it doesn't really ever become normal. It doesn't. You don't ever get used to it. You know, I think the ultimate thing I would just say is just be grateful, guys. Really be grateful. You know, because I'm bummed, like I'm sad and all of that, but like that wasn't my spouse, that wasn't my child, that wasn't my brother, you know. Never you remember them more. I always gotta allow me to keep my memory. As I age, I don't want to forget about how he looks and the memories as a kid. Lugo, do you feel like being there when he passed was like are you appreciative that you were there even though he probably wasn't in the best shape? You know? Because I think that's kind of the tension, right? Like I remember my buddy who passed away, he had pneumonia. But when he passed, I remember like being told not to go in there like after he had already passed, just because they were like, you don't want your last memory of him to be just kind of like dead on a hospital bed, right? So I'm always curious, like folks who were actually there, you know, does that change your perception? You know, do you wish you would have remembered him in a different light? Your last memory of that, you know, because like my last memory of Tanner is like me, him, and Foggy having a great meal, hanging out. I think we came back here to the studio. What it was this year? It wasn't that long ago, you know. Sort of kind of sounded about says the body gets ice cold. Yeah.